Hello and welcome back to Oaf Culture. I'm Handsome Oaf and today we are discussing a very recent release from DC Comics. I won't call this a review because I want to keep away from spoilers as much as possible. I'll discuss spoilers at the very end of the video after the outro, at the time that I put on the screen right now. Okay, now. Today we have the Oaf Culture discussion of Batman 3 Jokers, the final issue of which was just released on October 27th. A little bit of background info on 3 Jokers. This story was teased in 2016 at the end of Justice League Darkseid War, when Batman was able to sit on the Mobius chair and ask, "Who is the Joker?" And it told him the Joker was actually 3 different people. The mystery of that has been referenced a couple times in Rebirth comics since then, but nothing has really come of it until this Black Label story. As far as build-up goes, this story is a long time coming, but doesn't really have much narrative build-up beforehand, which doesn't hurt anything. At the beginning of this story, we find out that there do seem to be 3 different Jokers, and we're unsure if that's all there have ever been, or if there might be more. Important people start to go missing because of the Jokers, and Batman, Batgirl, and Red Hood have to figure out why. When they do find out why, they have to wonder how and why a certain individual who is important to Batman's past is involved with the Joker's plot. As the story progresses, we get truths revealed that may change the Batman mythos forever if this story is ever to be considered canon. And if I spoil them for you, there will be no point in reading these comics. So I will remain as tight-lipped as possible while I give you my reactions and overall opinion on this miniseries. As far as prerequisites go, the only things you really need to have a knowledge of are the events of The Killing Joke, so maybe give that a quick read or a quick watch of the movie, and you need to have an okay knowledge of Jason Todd's death, from the crowbar, to the dead, to the not dead. So now, spoiling as little as possible, I'll start talking about what I liked about this 3-issue miniseries. First, right off the bat, I gotta say the artwork is excellent. Nothing too awful is depicted in my opinion, but it may be a little intense for kids because this is DC Black Label, so it is more gory than normal. The artist, Jason Fabok, does a fantastic job as always. He gives Batgirl a look that's very similar to what she had in 2011 at the start of the New 52, and I really appreciate that. I think all her bat suits since then have been missteps, to be honest. The first thing, narratively, that I liked about this story is that there's no fluff. There was never a moment that I really didn't care about. Since this is a self-contained miniseries, and a short one at that, it's 3 issues, Jeff Johns wastes no time telling you all you need to know and nothing you don't. I also like most of the character moments and the sense of mystery throughout. The conflicts and thought-provoking questions that characters have to answer during this story are very well written and deeper than we usually ask and get answered in regular monthly comics. Jason Todd and Barbara Gordon are included in this story because they have both been very personally harmed by the Joker, and those are classic stories at this point of what happened to them. The Joker hurt them directly and personally and hasn't done the same sort of thing to Batman in any noteworthy way. Death in the Family, which just got an animated choose-your-own-adventure style adaptation, and Killing Joke, which got a fine animated movie in 2016. They're both must-read stories due to their cultural significance and the way that they changed Batman canon forever. Jason and Barbara have a great deal of emotional baggage due to the actions of the Joker, who they are now discovering, along with Batman, is actually more than one person. This is a great choice for their characters because we get to see them react, and it should be more meaningful to them than Dick Grayson, or Tim Drake, or Damian Wayne. So it's good that we have Jason and Barbara, and not those 3. Never thought I'd say that, but here we are. The characters interact and react to the Joker's actions in this story in ways that make sense to me. I didn't feel like anybody had been altered. Jason, Barbara, and also Bruce were shown to be vulnerable, closed off, angry, or not knowing quite how to feel in a realistic manner. They feel like real people in this story. Not to say that that's a rare thing that only this comic can pull off, but I'm just pointing out that their characters, as we generally know them, as a rule of thumb, don't really get altered in any meaningful way just to serve the story, which is a complaint that people make about comics like Marvel's Civil War story arc. The very last scene of the third issue was something I never saw coming, and I will have to leave it at that. You really just have to read this for yourself. The one thing I don't really like about this story in particular, not that it's the only thing that came and went that I didn't like, but just it's the one that I remember. I don't appreciate the little romance that takes place during the story. It does feel natural in that when you're going through trauma with another person, maybe it pushes the two of you together. However, basically, I do not ship it. I always prefer to set sail on a different particular ship, if you know what I mean. The way it ends as well, by the end of the story, the place we're in between these two people, which I won't spoil, left a little to be desired as well. The sense of closure they create in this story is sort of closure through making a point to not provide closure. So your closure is, hey, there is none. And it kind of nags at you, even me, and I didn't care. So they did a good job of making me feel something, even though I didn't care about that thing to begin with. However, it just kind of made me feel bad in the end. So basically, it's not that it lacks creative merit or anything. It just didn't sit right with me, and I wonder, why'd you have to do that? And I guess that was the point. My overall thoughts, what are they? This series is called Three Jokers. It sets out to tell you why it matters and why it makes sense for there to potentially be three Jokers. And it delivers an explanation that is satisfying in and of itself. I often think, would this be a good episode or two of Batman the Animated Series when I judge a Batman comic? Because that's just the pinnacle of quality Batman content for me. Based on the initial premise of the story and how it evolves as you continue reading, I'd say yes, it's a fine story that can keep you engaged, and it would be a fine couple episodes of a show. The real enjoyable pieces of it for me were the things I didn't expect, like the endings of issues 2 and 3 and the questions they raised or answered. I'd say this miniseries is totally worth reading, whether it's canon with mainstream DC continuity or not. And right now, we're going with no. Just for the ending of issue 3, if nothing else, it's totally worth reading. Issue 3 made the whole story worth it to me and made it a much better story overall than it seemed like in issues 1 and 2. There was so much more to it than they ever let on. I think it'd be silly to have a standalone review of each individual issue because they are very clearly written to be read as one whole story, and rightly so for a limited series of just 3 issues. There isn't much you need to know about Batman lore or the greater DC continuity to enjoy this series, so I think that's a plus as well. I recommend maybe a quick read of Killing Joke, like I said earlier, or look up a summary on YouTube even. Second, I'd recommend simply understanding Jason's history with the Joker, like I said earlier. A great way to do that is, if you haven't already, watch the movie Batman Under the Red Hood, which I think anyone in their right mind would highly recommend, as it's the cream of the crop for DC animated movies. In that case, having seen that movie, you're good on basically all you need to know about Jason to start this story. You don't need to worry about much that the movie might change or leave out. It's pretty much exactly what you need to know. Other than that, just know Jason turns good after the events of that movie, and now he's kind of the black sheep of the Bat family as an anti-hero. I highly recommend this story if you're a Batman fan who is craving something new. There are a couple big questions that I, and I bet you as well, ask ourselves about the Batman mythos that we never really have answered for us. Batman Three Jokers makes an effort to answer some of those questions. Maybe they're questions you didn't know you had, or maybe at least one of them is a question you ask on the regular. Maybe it's the one last thing that doesn't make sense about Batman. Now the question is, would I like for this story to be canon? I think probably so. It would need a few tweaks here and there to fit in just a little better with established lore for the DC universe. But does it really matter? No, I think it's a great read whether it's canon or not. If some time goes by and it becomes some mainstream DC lore like Killing Joke did, that'll be really cool. If you look at it one way, it's sort of like a sequel to Killing Joke, in that it's another story that maybe might as well be canon, and just isn't yet. Killing Joke eventually became an established event in the DC timeline, and who knows, maybe this kinda will too. For my overall arbitrary rating, I'll give it 8 out of 10 4-year teases. Handsome Oaf here. Thank you for tuning in to the third video on the Oaf Culture channel. I am so glad to have you here, and hope you enjoy what I've got so far. Let me know what you thought of Three Jokers in the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe as well, but of course, your viewership is quite enough for me. Thank you for being here, my friend. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Is everybody gone? Okay, spoiler time. I can see this being a very controversial comic when it comes to whether or not it should be canon. Since it's a Black Label comic, right off the bat, I'd say the plan is for it to not fit in with canon. But let's talk about the implications for if it was canonized. And yes, if it was canon, it would probably require a few tweaks, but weirder things have happened in the comic world. It was really heartwarming for Bruce to get closure on Joe Chill. Joker is sort of wrong about how Bruce feels about his pain. Yes, like anyone might, Bruce may feel good knowing that Joe Chill hurts because of what he did. But Bruce forgives Chill. That's a huge character moment for him that doesn't usually get thought about. A big question I never ask myself is, can Bruce forgive Joe Chill? And now I know, maybe so. Very interesting. I really wish Barbara and Jason could have come to the conclusion together that they weren't right for each other. Poor Jason will just think that Barbara couldn't talk about it. I am not a fan of the idea of a relationship between them anyway, like I said earlier, but I do feel bad for him nonetheless for the lack of closure on it that he gets. And the big one, Bruce knows who the Joker is, and he's always known. This is probably where the story is going to be controversial, if no other point. A compelling detail about the Joker has always been that Batman cannot figure out who he is. He has no trail to trace back to his identity. It is as if he just appeared one day, but we know that can't be true. The idea that Joker's origin in Killing Joke is true, and that his wife and son are alive somewhere in hiding, and Batman is protecting them by protecting the Joker's true identity, is fascinating. We also find out, if we didn't know or suspect already, and there is plenty already to suggest and confirm it, that Joker knows Batman's identity too. It is so cool that Joker protects Bruce's identity as part of his crazy game, while Batman protects Joker's identity to protect his innocent family, and Joker has no idea. And I'm so glad that they didn't say that Joker is a supernatural entity or something like that. I was worried about it going in, and I am pleased that he is still just a guy, whether we buy into this story or not. People may say Three Jokers isn't too special, but these twists really did shine for me. From Jason shooting the clown, to Joker trying to be the only pain Batman has, to Batman knowing all along who Joker really is, this is a really neat take on Batman, and I'm glad it's here. And now that we've done spoiler talk, that's about all I have to say about Three Jokers. I really enjoyed it the whole way through. I found it very engaging. It was never boring. It was more than I bargained for when I picked up the comic to read in the first place. I never expected it to be so deep or have so many secrets. I was really thinking, oh, Joker is an alien, or he's a ghost, or something. Nope, none of that weird crap. It was really just a good story, and yeah, I guess they could have done more with it, but for what it is, I'm really satisfied, and I'm glad that Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok gave it to us. If you made it this far, thank you for listening, and have a good rest of your day.